Hello and welcome to Talking with Famous People. My name's radio host Eric, and I'm here with radio guest, someone. She's an individual who has spoken with me before about her personality type, but sadly, it was not recorded properly by some idiot over here in the Talking with Famous People Corporation. I don't know who. Anyway, the point is, she's asked me to revisit her type a bit, and it sounds like fun to me. Especially since that first one didn't get recorded. So, I'll be honest, I don't really remember that conversation at all. So I'll just go ahead and act as though I never had it. um, first question:
Yeah. All right.
Do you think that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that? Do you think
You
that
do unify?
morals or ethics are
Oops. Go ahead.
absolute or relative?
Mm, mm,
It's not completely relative. I don't think it's absolute, but I don't know the criterion to
it's not
Okay.
completely relative.
that one.
I don't
I
think it's
don't think
absolute, but I don't know the criterion to
anything to absolute.
As,
Like no.
gauge that
as a
one.
general rule,
I
is
don't think
it better to
anything
commit
completely
to something
absolute.
that proves unworthy of
Don't
your
know.
commitment, or to avoid commitment and thereby lose opportunity? I don't mean to a person. I mean to a activity or something.
Well, I avoid commitment. I don't know if that's better.
Okay.
Well, I avoid
Um,
commitment. I don't know if that's better.
if you had a couple of days where you've been sent off to some sort of country estate, so lots of random shit around you could play with if you
Country
wanted to.
what?
A country estate, a rural country estate.
Okay.
All right. So it's a big house in the country. It's
Country
got a bunch
what?
of random stuff there, and basically you've been told you have to stay here for a few days.
Okay.
But what there's not any internet, and there's not any uh, there's not any like TV or anything like that. It's like you're back in the olden days. No electricity. Okay.
Mm.
How bored are you? How difficult is that? And what do you choose to do in the absence of those things?
Uh, Probably find a soft patch of grass and lay down and stare at the sky all day.
Uh,
Mostly,
Probably find a
probably check
soft
out the
patch of
birds as
grass and
well.
lay down and stare at the sky all day.
I know.
Mostly,
What do you feel
probably
gives
check
you
out the place
the
as
most
well.
equity in your life?
I know.
If I were to ask the question just like that, without any additional
I'm not
information,
mad.
do you have an answer, or do you need more information?
I need more information.
Okay. Um, what I mean is,
I need
some
more
people feel
information.
like their accomplishments at work provide them the most satisfied sense of self. Some people might think that their relationships with their loved ones provide the most full sense of self. Others might think that their possessions or their symbols of success, fancy car or house, provide the most sense of self. Uh, I'm just talking about a few different options. It could be any number of different things, and those are examples. Can you tell me what you think provides the most equity to you in your life?
I guess
Um,
understanding stuff. I don't think
I
anything exists
guess
provide me the most
understanding
equity to
stuff.
me.
I
Can you
don't think
explain your
anything you said
relationship
would
to the
provide me
equity you gain
with
from
the most
understanding
equity,
things?
really.
Is it useful? A tool thing that you now understand something you're going to use that for a purpose, or is it more that now? Well, what do you learn? Tell me more about that.
Well, it's trying to.
Well,
I don't. I would. It can be useful, but it's not always
it's trying to.
useful, really. useful to
I
me,
don't. I
I
would.
guess,
It
with
can be useful,
trying
but it's
to
not always useful,
understand
really. It's useful to me, I guess, because I'm
things
trying
and
to
understand myself,
understand
and
th
eventually, I guess, I think
things and understand
help the world with
myself,
that, or figure out
and
some,
eventually, I
Is that what you
guess,
think
figure
you
out
need to
ways
do? Is that your,
help the
like,
world with
look,
that, or
you
figure out
finally
some,
done all the intermediate steps,
figure
all the
out the
beginning work,
truth
and
of
now
things.
whatever it is you wanted to do, you've got everything, all the tangible shit that you could possibly want out of any kind of achievement, whatever that is for you. And you're left with sort of a big pile of money. You're 65 years old or whatever, and kind of thinking, well, what should I do now that I have no need to benefit myself at all? Like all my needs have been met forever. What do you do?
all my needs. Are you talking about tangible needs?
Yeah, I'm saying like you've achieved everything you could possibly want to achieve in your given
All
line
my
of work.
needs,
So
are you talking about
if you're like, I'm passionate
tangible
about
needs?
dentistry, then you become president of the American Dental Council, and you've gotten whatever dentist awards you get, right? Like, and you've made a lot of money at it, and you have the respect of colleagues, and you've been known to, solving a difficult dental problem in the past that helped a lot of people, or whatever, like that kind of shit. Whatever your field is, you've achieved all you can achieve in it. Whatever your field or passion is, if it's whatever it is, or do you feel as though you can't answer that question for some reason?
Yeah, I don't think I know, honestly.
Okay. I mean, it seems to me, in no uncertain terms, your type
Yeah, I
already,
don't think
right?
I know,
What?
honestly.
INFP.
Why?
Well, because
What?
like the thing I just said, where I was
Why?
asking you to define something, like, well, is it more like this or like that or like the other thing? The reason INFPs resist that so much is because feelings requires no distinction to be fully useful, and
What?
any dislikes limiting distinctions. So
I'm not res-
with SI in the third slot, you have a particular hesitancy towards any distinction that limits you at all or that limits the possible interpretations at all because it's going to lock in stronger than it will for me as an INTP. ENTP. ENTP has SI in the fourth, right? But you have it in the third. And so it's like if you do commit to something, an idea or something, you've got to wrestle with it a more significant fact that you just committed to that notion because it's in your third slot versus in your fourth. Now, for your fourth slot, you've got TE. That's expert thinking, like step by step, by step by step. And so your gut is, well, if I can see a clear path, clear link, logical link from the answer I have in mind to possibly give, and you know why that answer is answered by this particular question or something like that, then you'll feel comfortable answering it. But only then, and that's almost never, which is why you guys never like to answer questions that have to pin you down about anything. It's a sure sign you're an INFP. I mean, it's like that's that's textbook. It's like the thing is, and the irony of it being that the non-committalness is as definitive as anything else, right?
Hmm?
Did you hear me? Hmm.
Did you hear me?
No, I didn't hear. I didn't hear you. What did you say?
I said, why do you think INFP versus INTP? Is there any? Is it
Okay.
because
I
you have
said,
TI
why
final,
do you
or
think INFP
You
versus
don't you don't
INTP?
have TI in
Is
your
there any?
conscious stack at
Is it because
all.
my
You
you
got
think
it
I
in
have
the
TI
eighth
final
slot,
or what?
which is not a bad slot to have it. I have SE in my eighth slot. Okay, INFPs are really smart. That's why they might think of themselves as INTPs, because they mistakenly believe that intelligence and and TI are linked more directly than they actually are. I mean, they are linked directly, but it's not the slot. You don't have it in the seventh slot. You don't have it in the fourth slot. You don't have it in the third slot. It's not aspirational. So, as the eighth slot function, in my mind, eighth slot for me is the thing that does all the work without me having to pay any fucking attention to it, which is great. It's like I love that about it. I love having SE there. It just means you end up doing shit without really understanding why or how or when or what made that happen. You know. So TI in the eighth slot, I think it's fair to say I'm effective at doing things. Right. I do a lot of stuff, but that's my eighth slot function that I'm not valuing at all. Your eighth slot function is TI. So if you might say to yourself, I think all the time. Well, I'm doing shit all the time. That doesn't mean SE's in my conscious stack. So I think you're an IFP because INTP would not answer those questions with so much hesitancy because they wouldn't necessarily be reflecting back upon their own life, looking for evidence in how they feel as though those questions relate to memories and SI of their own life, which is what you're doing, and then you're thinking to yourself, this doesn't feel the same. And you're thinking, that's a good explanation for why I'm not going to answer this question, because the question implies that he's not understanding something. That the reality is such that actually it's very mushy, that it's full of feelings, and those questions aren't meaningful because they draw false distinctions with TI that arbitrarily divide things. You know, I think that's basically the gist of it. You guys don't like to be pinned down. Okay. So,
Yeah, I'm there, Unify. Did I have something to say, or?
Yeah, I'm there, Unify. Do you have something to say, or?
sorry I had to text these people. You got a party going on at someone's house.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, that's great. That's fine. I'm not complaining about it.
I'm not recording, it's just my siblings being stupid.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, it sounds to me like they're
It's not a
being
party,
stupid
it's
in
just
a
my siblings being
delighted
stupid.
and playful fashion.
Okay.
Okay, so how easily do you get your feelings hurt
Okay.
in general?
I don't think I do.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying
I don't think I do.
but
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't.
I don't think I
Uh,
will.
I don't.
I don't think
I don't think I
I have like a value
will.
system, which is what I do.
I don't think I
I think that's what I
have
think
like
about all
a
the time.
value system, which is what
Do you
I
think about
do,
not
but
having a value system, or
I
you
think
think about
that's
what the
what I
value
think
system
about
should
all the
be?
time.
Yeah, what it
Which
should be. I don't think I already have something that I
yeah,
run through
what it
everything
should
through.
be. I don't think
So you're saying you want
I
to have
already
a,
have something that I run
a
through
TI
everything
value
through.
system?
Which
What?
You want to have a TI value system? Because FI value
I'm
systems
not saying I
don't
don't
work
know.
like that.
I'm not saying
I don't know.
what.
Because look, the TI value system is what I have, where I go, these are my principles, these are my
I don't
axioms,
know.
and I have to be
I'm
consistent with them because that's how I determine whether I'm doing the right thing or the wrong thing. And it's built out really carefully so that I always know what's subject to what kind of critique, and so I can be sure that I am doing the right thing all the time. And that's a TI style value
So
system.
are you saying FI will just know?
FI doesn't rely on
So you're saying
binary
F?
choices
Are
like
you
that. It's
saying
not a
FI would just
conditionality
know?
web. It just says
It's,
doesn't feel right to me. I'm not gonna do it.
I don't think I do that all that often.
Do you do so? Okay, but how many moral choices are
I
you
don't think I
facing
do that
in any
all that
given
often.
occasion? Most people don't face many moral choices in
Yeah,
life. You know,
there's that. There's that too. So,
if you're an
Yeah,
INTP,
there's that too.
you would.
So,
Let me see. Let's see. Let's
hmm,
evaluate this possibility. It certainly is possible. It's just the because an INTP might be in a stage of I guess argumentation where they sort of have everything unraveled in front of their brain, but they don't have everything uh, organized inside their head exactly. So that's
so they need to talk about it, or
so they need to talk about it,
sorry about
or
this. I keep getting these texts. I'm gonna put this phone away now. One of them was important that I had to respond to. It's a friend asking if
what?
sounds like she's having some marriage difficulties. This one's her again. She's asking maybe she can stay over here for a couple of days. So,
yeah, no problem.
uh, all right,
Yeah, no
join.
problem.
Here, I try to get her on here. That's what I'm gonna try to do. That's the smartest thing I could do. She's this is an INFP who is
Okay.
right now being ridiculous. No doubt. I have no doubt about it that
Okay.
she's being completely ridiculous. That doesn't mean I won't be there to support her no matter what because she's inner circle for sure. And
Okay.
and but she's saying right now I'm at this point where I know I'm being obsessive and crazy, but I also know Corey's being neglectful, and I'm trying to hang on for dear life. Well, the thing is, of course, Corey's not being neglectful. She's being codependent, but and she knows that. But she's an INFP, so her feelings lead her places. I don't know if you're like that or not. Could you imagine yourself saying those words?
Hmm.
I have never been in that sort of. I don't. I guess I could see myself saying that, but
I have never been in that
it's
sort
not.
of. I don't.
Corey's being
I guess I
neglectful.
could
I
see
mean,
myself
it's
saying that,
fucking
but
ridiculous. The thing that Corey is
it's
being
not.
neglectful. I know that marriage,
Yeah.
he's constantly involved with family shit. He's not. He's the furthest thing imaginable from neglectful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about something like that because I've never had any experience with such a
Yeah. I don't know about
such a
something like
relationship.
that because
So
I've never had an
yeah,
experience
I
with
can't
such a
say exactly. I don't think I would
in
feel like
such a
that though.
relationship. So yeah, I can't say exactly. I
I
don't think I would
prefer my
feel like that
space.
though. I
Do I express
think
myself openly in
I prefer
text?
my space.
And shit.
Yeah, I generally speaking, yeah,
Do I
and
express
shit.
myself openly in
Yeah, I
text?
do prefer to text
Yeah, I
because I can,
generally speaking,
think it out.
yeah,
I hate
and
it.
shit.
I hate
Think it
texting.
out.
Yeah, I do prefer to
Worst.
text
But
because I can, think it
I,
out,
I do like just being
spread
in
it out.
front of someone, just
But
being able to ask them questions as I
I
please.
like, I
So
do
my
like
understanding.
just
That's why I
being in
like
front
great
of someone,
teachers.
just
Just talk with
being
them,
able to ask my questions
and
as I
they'll
please. So
pull
my
some good.
understanding. That's why I like great teachers. Just
Are you
talk all day,
somebody
and
who takes a lot of
mine
notes,
will do
or
good.
is like,
No,
no?
no, I
Do,
can't.
do you retain
I
it
don't know.
auditorily? Like, do you just sort of remember it when you
No,
need it?
no, I can't. And it doesn't help me.
Well, if I'm paying attention, I'll usually be asking questions.
Uh,
And yeah,
well, if I'm paying
I'll be asking
attention,
questions
I'll
to make sure
usually be asking questions.
I understand it. And it helps.
And
I usually
yeah, if I'm
take
paying attention, I'll
notes.
be asking
Unless
questions to make
it's
sure
something like I'm trying to figure out like
I understand it,
I'm working
and
on
that's
a
how I
question.
usually
So
understand it.
taking
Taking
notes just
notes,
gets distracting.
unless it's something
I don't get
like
shit out
I'm
of
trying
it.
to figure out like
It's
math,
just not really
and I'm
helpful.
working on a question
All right.
myself, taking
Well,
notes just
let me
distracts
tell
me.
you. Let's
I
try
don't get shit
this.
out of it.
This is an
It's
interesting
just not
experiment.
really
So,
helpful.
if I were to tell you that I'm going to give you some information here, and then I'm going to make an argument, and based on either the information, the various pieces of information I've given you, one of those, or based on something else, I'd like you to respond to the argument. So here's some various pieces of information. Probable cause, as in the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, is an evidentiary standard that judges use to determine if a piece of evidence that's been seized by the police can
Mm.
be used against the person from whom the evidence was seized to try that person for a crime. That's what probable cause is. Next, I get.
So
Next, I'm going to tell you something else. Hold on. Next, I'm going to tell you something else. That probable cause is not specifically a rule that
So,
instructs police officers how to search or anybody else how to search. Instead, it only deals with the evidence once it reaches the court. There's no punishment for a police officer who searches illegally. All right, and the third thing I'm going to tell you is that this is the last thing I'm going to tell you. The third thing I'm going to tell you is that
there's
in
no.
the status quo,
You
right now, the way things are right now,
do,
kids in schools don't, to be searched, they don't need probable cause to search a kid in school because it's considered a probable cause, it's considered a rights light zone or something, you know? So you don't need probable cause. The cops, if the cops get evidence from a kid in a school without adhering to the probable cause guideline, then the courts will throw that evidence out as inadmissible because it fails to adhere to the evidentiary rule. So, okay, that's all I have to tell you. Now, here's my argument, and you respond to it.
okay, wait. Can you repeat the second part?
I don't even remember what it was.
can
I
wait.
don't know.
Can you repeat the
Just go with
second
me.
part?
Just roll with it, okay?
Sorry.
So here's the argument I'm making. I want you to answer it. It's very important that
Okay.
we change the rules so that probable cause applies to kids in schools as well. Because we don't want police and teachers searching kids without full array of probable cause. Reasonable suspicion is not strict enough standard. And the reason it's not strict enough is because there's no reason to think that kids should have less rights than adults. They're all human beings. That's my argument. Now respond to it based on all the shit I said. Or whatever else you want.
So you're saying the police should have probable cause to be able
So you're
to
saying
search a student just like
the police should
they're
have
searching
probable
any other person.
cause
They have
to
to
be
have probable
able
cause
Right.
to search a student just like if they're searching any other person.
I
They
don't
have
think
to
I
have
have
a
anything to
probable
argue
cause for it.
with. I agree with that.
Okay. Unify, can
I
you
don't think I
provide an
have
answer
anything
to
to
that?
argue with. I agree with that.
Anybody else in the room want to provide an answer to that? My point that based on all the shit I said, and you may have missed a lot of it. I mean, I'm not saying anybody should pick up on all that shit I ran through real quick, but there was lots of stuff there you could grab a little thing from, you know, just raw material to grab shit from. You guys have an idea about that?
And that's not the case now, you're saying, currently?
I'm saying currently in the status quo,
And that's
kids
not the case
are
now, you're saying, currently?
when kids are searched, if the search was deemed to be based on reasonable suspicion rather than probable cause, and reasonable suspicion is a less strict guideline. If the search was deemed by the judge to be okay under reasonable suspicion, in the status quo, that's good enough.
Okay.
What I'm saying is we should switch it so it's probable cause because we want to make sure that the cops and teachers don't search kids in school unless they have probable cause.
What's the guideline of probable cause exactly? What's the difference between that and reasonable suspicion? Is there anything
What,
Well, there's a
what's the
warrant
guideline of
requirement in
probable
probable
cause
cause.
exactly? What's the difference between that and reasonable suspicion? Is there anything specific?
and there's no for reasonable suspicion?
No.
Okay.
You just have to reasonably suspect that you got a good reason to search and you can search.
And there's no for reasonable suspicion?
That's the only difference?
I mean, it's a big difference. The warrant requirement is a big difference, but no, it's not the only difference. And
That's the
the
only
legal
difference.
distinction is quite particular, um, which is to say, like for example, if you if you swerve while you're driving, that's reasonable suspicion for the cops to pull you over. It's not probable cause to search your car for empty liquor bottles until and unless that reasonable suspicion reveals some additional information that constitutes probable cause. They can
Mm-hmm.
bypass the warrant with a vehicle because they made a fucking exception for vehicles for some reason. They call it exigent
So,
circumstances, but it's bullshit.
so why can't they just use reasonable suspicion to, I don't know, get a warrant
So,
when they're doing the student?
so why can't they
Well,
just
reasonable
use
suspicion doesn't
reasonable
require them to get a
suspicion
warrant.
to, I don't know, get a
No,
warrant
but a
when
segue
they're
to
dealing
that.
with the
If
student?
they do think there's something
Because
reasonable, then why not just be fair?
no, but a segue to that. If they do
Okay,
think there's
but
something reasonable,
I'm
then why not
advocating
just be
that they
fair?
always have to get a warrant. You're trying
Yeah,
to advocate that they shouldn't always have to get a warrant.
no, I'm saying they should if
No.
they do think they have a reason.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
mean.
but I'm telling you, I'm saying I would like you
No, I'm
to
saying they should
argue
if
the
they
other
do think they
position,
have a reason.
to argue against what I'm saying.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
What did Unify say?
Well,
Anybody else? Another person is the rights and proper
you don't
cause should
see
apply
it?
to. Okay, we all agree with this. Yes, we all agree with this. I'm asking you guys to argue the other side, to argue
do you
against
not
that,
see it?
so I can see, I can
Okay.
demonstrate how, or I can determine if, like, I've got INTP in here, I've got INFJ in here, I've got,
Okay.
I think INFP in here, but I'm not sure. We're trying to figure that out right now, and how people respond to this sort of question is very different. And so I think that the different arguments you're going to make are going to be very telling.
Okay.
And I gave you a lot of information, and depending on how you use that information, will be
Okay.
revelatory of your preferred cognitive functions. I can go over the information again if anybody else wants to hear it. If anybody wants to chime in with an answer to my point that kids should have probable cause, kids should be subject to probable cause like adults. All right, so I've told her to come over here. She's just meow on the chat. It's like fucking. When I said I hate text, I mean I hate texting on the phone because my fingers are very slow. I'm very slow at it.
Oh.
I don't like that slowness. Okay, so anybody have any other answers to my thing? No. All right. So I guess let me explain how different people might answer that. So I'm saying, well, we should have probable cause. If you have like your ESFJ, ESTJ types, in my mind, they're gonna say, no, they're just kids, and if I want to search my kid's room, I'm gonna search my kid's room, and if I tell the school it's okay for them to search my kid's locker, then that should be fine. I mean, I want to keep my kids safe. It's not worried about them getting their shit looked at a little bit. Who cares about that, right? It's gonna be your SF type or STJ type. Um, the NTP type will say something like, "This is you keep saying that it's gonna cause them to search kids differently in school, but it's an evidentiary rule. It's not instruction to cops or teachers. There's no reason to assume that teachers are going to follow this guideline because there's no consequences for them if they don't. It's
No,
not. It's
no consequence if they don't do what?
well, if probable cause now applies to
No, con-
teachers and
no
parents. I
consequence
mean,
if they
teachers
don't do what?
and cops when kids are in schools. Okay, so that now, oh,
Okay.
was that what you're gonna say? You're gonna say all that shit? You're gonna argue all that? But you took too long. Get on the fucking mic, dude. Why so slow with the typey types? Um. Okay, I'm not. No. No, I'm not going to. Okay, jeez. It was just a warm suggestion. That's all. Did you feel the warmth?
Are you saying that the teachers and administrators might just disregard it if they are
Are you
held
saying
probable cause?
There's
that
a lot of reasons
the teachers and administrators might
why they might
just
not follow that
disregard it
guideline. Number one, they may
if they
disregard
are
it.
held to probable cause?
Number two, they may try to execute it, but they're not trained law enforcement professionals. And how much time do we want to spend training public school officials to learn these protocols? Number three, they may disagree with the drug war, and knowing the fact that almost all these searches are going to result in drugs and nothing else, they may choose to execute the reasonable suspicion standard so as to undermine the effect of the uh, probable cause on the drug war. You know, so if, it's to undermine the possibility of what do you call it? Putting kids in jail. That's right.
Yeah,
Like, like,
non-incarceration.
yeah, like okay, well we found the drugs, we keep the kids safe, but I found it in a bad way, so you can't use it against them in court. Like that's a possibility. So the argument then is you're assuming shit that's not going to happen. You misunderstand the Fourth Amendment. You misunderstand probable cause. You misunderstand what an evidentiary rule is versus uh, a mandate. Right? It's not a mandate to cops and teachers. You must blah 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 blah. It's a limit upon government, and the courts have determined that the only mechanism for limiting government's intrusion is to exclude evidence that's found illegally. So that's what their standards are. They're legal standards used in court for the purpose of determining evidence admissibility. So that's what NTP is going to say, right? And INFP is going to more or less, I think, do kind of like that. Ask a bunch of questions. Like you asking me questions about the specifics of the protocol, right? Like, well, what exactly do you need to do to have probable cause? And that's basically not relevant to the topic because it's relevant, but it has no impact, right? It's like whatever it is, we know it's a little bit, at least a little bit tougher of a standard to meet than reasonable suspicion. That's all we need to know because that impact of that particular machine engine is uh, is the thing we're going to be working with. The specifics don't matter. I can win by a little bit better or a lot better. Doesn't matter, right? I'm trying to show that it's better, not that it's has massive better impacts or something. As long as I can show that it's better, I don't need it to win by a large margin for it to win. So for what I'm saying about that is different types hone in what on different parts of the argument. If you hone in on something like to me, it's kind of an INFP answer in the sense that you're trying to figure out how much. This might be. I might be wrong about this. Maybe this isn't your reasoning, but it seemed like you're saying, well, how much harm is it actually going to do to these people, or how much harm is it going to prevent? Is that something you were thinking about when you were evaluating this topic?
How much harm is
How
it?
much
What?
harm probable cause will
Oh,
potentially cause?
Cause or prevent, right? Or
how
did
much
you
harm
think about
probable
the
cause
experience of the individual at all in
could
this process, or
potentially
were you thinking
cause?
purely abstractly about the rules and what they meant?
I think I was just trying to understand, like, where they differ exactly.
I think I was just
I
trying to
didn't put myself,
understand,
I'm
uh,
not even in the teacher's position.
like, where they differ
So,
exactly.
but,
I didn't put myself
no,
even in the teacher's position, which I
yeah,
probably
I
should have.
understand what
But
you're saying.
no,
But it's hard to say, of course, also because remember,
yeah, I understand
INTPs
what you're
always
saying.
display stealthy at the beginning. You can't
Oh,
pick them up right away. They don't like to answer questions that expose them for
They
being
always,
wrong. So there could be that
they
too.
always, they always display what?
what?
They're
They
stealthy at
always
the
dis-
beginning. They don't
they
they won't
always
they won't
they always
show
display
up
what?
until they're good at
Do you
something. So it's like they'll hide until they're good, and then you realize, oh, you're super good. It's annoying. It's an annoying INTP thing because like you're you're so convinced INTPs that that you know best how to approach this new thing, right? Like, well, I'm going to think about it carefully back here, and then I'm going to reveal what I know eventually. When really you should say, hello, I'm an INTP, and I'm going to admit it right up front, so I'm not going to hide back here, and go ahead and start making me beast a little bit faster than I would by myself. Well, that's true. That's a good point, Lightbulb. You got it. You nailed it on the head. Yeah, perfection.
I don't know. I feel like maybe
Well,
I've been in
I don't
a
know. I
loop
feel
for
like
a while,
maybe
which is I'm kind of out of it.
Well, I mean,
And
I've been in
remember, no
a loop
conclusions are
for a
being drawn
while,
here. It's just
which is why I'm
thoughts.
kind of out of it.
yeah, I know. I understand.
And
I haven't drawn anything on myself, so yeah.
yeah, I
Because it's
know.
important to me
I
that I
understand.
don't impose on other people
I
what their
haven't
type
drawn
is.
anything on
If I
myself.
feel like I think I know what it is,
Yeah.
I have to remember that, it's like I've talked to you here for not very long, and a lot of people display very differently after you've known them for a while than they do at first. So that's another reason to take these sort of things with a grain of salt. Um, when you say you've been in a loop, can you describe what that's like, or what kind of loop that is?
Just constantly thinking